realizing that even Amazon doesn't ship chocolate was both a blessing and a curse when we started the company. It should have been our first clue to stay away, but it was also our reason for why we got into it, because we were like, oh, Amazon won't even be our competition. And if Amazon won't dive into it, a lot of people won't either. Someone wants to replicate Bar and Cocoa, they can copy a product page, but they can't copy a decade of supplier relationships, shipping know-how, FDA compliance, and just the muscle memory of doing it right under pressure.
Welcome to Frank Growth. I'm Jason Shafton, and I run growth consulting firm Winston Francois. Around here, we tell the truth about growing, the good, the bad, and the can't say it out loud ugly. Every episode, we get tactical with operators, investors, and builders, what works, what breaks, and what to do next. This episode, we're going to talk about what's delicious. No fluff, no vanity metrics, no hustle theater, just signal. This is Frank Growth. Let's get into it. Today, we've got Pashmina De Shon, Friction is a Moat. Before we bring her on, a quick riff on today's topic. Everyone wants the clean e-commerce business, a few SKUs, fat margins, ship from a 3PL, run ads, scale, the dream. And look, that business does exist, but it's also the business with the shortest half-life, because if it's easy to start, it's even easier to lose. Somebody with a Shopify account and an Alibaba supplier can copy your catalog in a weekend. The businesses that last, they're the ones that chose the hard path on purpose, the ones that own their own warehouse, know their supply chain by name, and built the compliance muscle that nobody else wants to build. That's the frame. Friction is a moat. The operational pain that everyone avoids is the competitive advantage that nobody can copy. Brick and mortar is not dead. It's the next unlock for brands that have already earned trust online. And finally, legacy is built in the complexity, not in spite of it. Here are 3 traps I see all the time. 1, outsourcing things that define your customer experience. 2, optimizing for ease instead of durability. And 3, assuming that online only is the ceiling when it just might be the foundation. That's the frame we'll use with Pashmina. Let's get tactical. Pashmina, welcome to Frank Growth.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're so glad to have you. We connected through Hampton, and you told me something I haven't been able to shake. Everyone wants a few SKUs, high margins, and zero logistics headaches, but those brands are short-lived. Legacy is built in the friction. I think you founded Bar and Cocoa to be the destination for the world's best craft chocolate. You curate and import from leading makers across Europe and Asia and the Americas, and you run the business end-to-end, procurement, compliance, fulfillment, brand growth, bootstrapped to over $3 million in revenue, I believe. And after a decade as a purely online business, you just opened a physical store in Greensboro. Is that right?
That's right. We're in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Amazing. Well, let's start with kind of the thesis behind all this. Everyone wants this e-commerce business that's uncomplicated, just a few SKUs, high margins, and easy to run. You've built something that's maybe a little bit the opposite of that. Why is maybe, friction the moat? Or, if you have a different perspective there, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. I think everyone loves a clean business model and something that like a VC or a PE can acquire very easily. I get that appeal, and it's very easy to start, especially if you have a great idea, but it's also easy to copy. And it's an even easier race to the bottom. So, and the friction that most founders outsource or avoid, like importing and compliance and temperature sensitive shipping and curation at scale and customer education, those things are harder and they're harder to copy as well. I mean, realizing that even Amazon doesn't ship chocolate was both a blessing and a curse when we started the company. It should have been our first clue to stay away, but it was also our reason for why we got into it, because we were like, oh, Amazon won't even be our competition. And if Amazon won't dive into it, a lot of people won't either. If someone wants to replicate Bar and Cocoa, they can copy a product page, but they can't copy a decade of supplier relationships, shipping know-how, FDA compliance, and just the muscle memory of doing it right under pressure.
I believe Bar and Cocoa started as a subscription club. Why start it there, and what did that model teach you about your customer before you scaled the catalog of products?
Honestly, we were just throwing spaghetti on the wall to see if the concept had any legs. So we launched ads, because that was our skill set, to a landing page before we'd even bought a single bar of chocolate. And the subscription forced clarity. It kept inventory super tight. We only bought what we needed to fulfill each month's box and nothing more. But that also taught us a lot about curation. It taught us about risk and breadth. And diversity, I think, is part of the point of what we do. I think a lot of retailers who have tried to do this before maybe were too narrow in their scope, or they were a reflection of their personal taste, or vice versa. They were just no curation at all. So real curation isn't just about our favorites, but it's about balancing standards and ranges so that people can find the thing that they love. And if you're new to craft chocolate, the subscription is still like the easiest on-ramp to the best of chocolate without overthinking it.
I gave up sugar at the beginning of this year, but right now my mouth is watering. You've called bar and cocoa the Sephora of chocolate. What does that actually mean operationally? Curation standards, experience design, margin structure?
Yeah, so I think the reason I use Sephora as an example is because we're not a single brand, right? And people think like, oh, do you make the chocolate? No, we're not. We don't make the chocolate. We are a marketplace for chocolate, kind of like Sephora in that way. But we're also not a distributor just dumping cases of chocolate on the market. We're curated. We're all about the craft. We're about premium, and it's built on trust. We filter the world for the best chocolate. We remove all the bad options and we make the discovery feel easy and safe. Like you go to a Sephora, you meet these people who are passionate about certain brands or certain products or certain new ingredients. And you can go in there knowing that whatever you buy is something that you will probably love or like. And if not, you can return it because it doesn't fit your needs. And that's kind of how I think of bar and cocoa. So the experience design matters too, how you shop, how you learn, how it arrives, how it's packaged. It's all part of the story. And the margin structure has to support that education and service, not just the volume. Sephora doesn't win because lipstick is rare. They win because they reduce decision fatigue and they make you feel confident. So it's the same idea with bar and cocoa.
Okay, so you have 1,200 SKUs from 60 makers across 30 countries. How do you decide what earns a spot and what doesn't?
I mean, taste is number one, right? So if it doesn't taste good, it's not delicious, nothing else matters. After that, we look at everything else, the ingredients, the ethics, consistency, whether the maker actually can support the demand without compromising quality. Awards can be a signal. They're not always the decision making factor. A lot of it gets rejected for really boring, unsexy reasons, like, just the appearance of the bar and the mold. It's just not pretty. Maybe it's really tasty, but the packaging just sucks and we know we can't sell it online. Like, unfortunately, you can't lick a screen. So we are judging a book by its cover when you're shopping online. So those things matter. And we have to also make sure that the packaging can survive and the shelf life can survive when you're shopping online.
Yeah, chocolate melts.
Yeah.
Most e-commerce brands outsource fulfillment. You run your own warehouse, shipping, and import logistics. Why own all of that pain?
So, I go back and forth on this and I'd love to be proven wrong on this. I mean, I really would. But I think most 3PLs are built for really simple products or just a few handful SKUs. So it's one of the two. Like either it's like a t-shirt with many SKUs, which is fine, or it's like a frozen product that maybe has like 10 SKUs. And yes, there are 3PLs that focus on perishable products, but I've seen how they ship. I get these giant boxes overloaded with ice packs, and that cannot possibly be good for margins. I don't think our business would survive or have any chance of profitability if we handed this over to another 3PL, but I'd love to be proven wrong. Owning fulfillment now, when we're smaller, allows us to gain those skills while we're still small and control quality, figure out packing, figure out speed, unsexy details that make customers want to come back. And I think there's this thing where, when you're a six-figure company, you can't afford 3PLs. When you're and then you hit like seven figures and you're like, "Oh, let me just outsource this headache." But when you're an eight-figure company, you're going to want to own that back anyway. So why not in that valley between that point, you grow and pick up those skills so that when you are an eight-figure company, you already own it and you're already doing it right. I think a lot of people don't know how to fulfill chocolate,
Did
including.
you learn where did you learn fulfillment and shipping, and how did you
Gosh,
figure
it's
this stuff
all
out?
trial and error. I think that's why, like, maybe the first 10 years have been a slow growth because we were trying to figure this stuff out. How do you ship chocolate and have an extremely low melt rate? How do you maintain inventory with best by dates and expiration dates without having a huge waste rate? I think if you look at like some of the larger companies, like let's say even like Williams Sonoma who sells food,
Mhm.
I think their waste rate, or meaning the number of products they're not able to sell before it hits shelf life expiration dates, is about 10 to 12%.
Wow.
We're at about 2%. And if we didn't have that right, I don't know that the margins would make sense to continue. And I think that's also part of the challenge in this business and why we can't just offload 3PL to someone else because there's
Yeah.
just so many complicated things to keep track of. And
Yeah.
how we package and kit chocolates also are dependent on those factors.
Yeah. You're importing products from multiple continents. How does that supply chain work? What does it actually look like?
Oh gosh. Um it's it's not just about the customs, but it's also, we're dealing with small makers, like it's like a web of tiny producers, and then there's long lead times. A lot of them will like literally start to produce the chocolate after we've submitted the order, right? And then like you're dealing with forecast issues and productions and cacao bean shortages and every harvest is different. So there's also concerns about the consistency of the product. It breaks, when it breaks, it's like predictable. It's all about those things, but you just find a way to manage your inventory planning to account for those things. And I think that's the other learning thing. The things that I've learned as we've gone along is it's not so much about this. Well, I don't remember what the phrase is, but the like just in time, I guess.
Hmm.
We can't be just in time. Like we have to like account for being in stock for months in advance so that if something does happen and something breaks along the way, we're still well stocked for
Yeah.
both our store and our wholesale accounts.
Yeah. You bootstrapped the business to over 3 million in revenue. What was the hardest growth plateau and what was the thing that got you past it?
So I think early on hustle just works, right? But
Hmm.
hustle breaks at scale.
Hmm.
Inventory planning gets brutal, cash gets tighter and tighter, operations become the bottleneck. And when you're selling something that's perishable and it's your busy season is in Q4, then everything else becomes chaotic. So what got us past it was just the boring, super decisive stuff. Tighter forecasting, better SKU data, better packaging, better supplier cadence, and letting our data drive the growth and not the other way around. If what I would do differently, I think I would have invested early on in better forecasting tools, better inventory planning tools. And I probably would have put more SKUs on the chopping block sooner, just kind of kill off the ones that are just slow moving rather than be like, oh, but I love this maker and I love their chocolate. Well, if it doesn't sell, you have to be somewhat unemotional about that too. And remember that at the end of the day, it's also still a business and the customers are telling you what they want and what they don't want. So in a curated marketplace, complexity is an asset, but unmanaged complexity can also definitely hurt.
What has surprised you about moving from the D2C ecom screen to now kind of going to the storefront and maybe any things that folks considering that move as well you wish someone had warned you about?
Well, I think what's different about moving from digital to storefront, I think staffing is something that I was very stressed out about and hiring the right person because training someone to deliver a premium experience is a lot harder than just building a website. And foot traffic patterns are very humbling. People don't behave like they do online. Online, they're a ghost in some ways. They're on there researching themselves and they're making that purchase themselves. In the store, we have people come in, they're telling us their stories about their families, their kids as they're shopping. And, some of them want fast guidance and some of them just want to take their time and browse and peruse and they want a little bit of magic at the end of the day. And merchandising is another surprise. What looks good on a product page doesn't always show on shelves, and you need to learn quickly when things need signs or when things need sampling or need to be told in a different way as far as the storytelling goes. Retail's great. It's immediate feedback. It keeps us honest. I really like it.
How do you think about the economics though of physical retail when your foundations in D2C? What changes in the P&L and what can stay?
DTC is very variable cost heavy, right? So shipping, packaging, ad spend is like completely variable based on how we're doing like from month to month. And I can turn up those levers or turn them down as we need to. And retail is more fixed cost heavy. So rent, labor, build out, local marketing, all those things are fixed. But what stays the same is the discipline. So you still need to think about contribution margins. You still need to think about inventory turns and you need to have a strong point of view. Like your store needs to have a story. The model might change for demand, but I don't think the store is just a sales channel. It's also, to me, it's like clicks and bricks. And the store is more of a marketing and retention channel than it is a sales channel. And I think the people who are thinking about retail or want to get into retail, they can't think of it as like DTC, but with shelves. It's a completely different machine. And you need to have a reason for why you should exist in retail. And I think Bar& and Coco has a very strong reason to exist as a retail store.
I want to try chocolate in person.
Yeah. We sample like 3 or 4 bars, every day in the
Just
store. And it's
camping
just fun.
outside. So the craft chocolate market is booming, but most consumers still are completely unaware. How do you educate a market and sell at the same time?
You make education a part of the product. So it's part of our email flows. It's part of our pitch for when people walk into the store. Sampling is a big part of it. Like, tasting is really truly believing. A lot of people tell us that once they've eaten our chocolate, they can't go back. So, and you don't want to talk down to people. You don't want to turn everyone into a chocolate expert or a chocolate som. You just need to get them to that oh wow moment with whatever they taste or whatever they've tried. And for every person, it's different. For one person, it's the camel milk chocolate we carry from Dubai. For another person, it's the brown cheese bar from Fjac out of Norway and the Nordic flavors. And for another person, it's just a singular 100% cacao single origin bar from the Dominican Republic. We have the largest selection of 100% single origin chocolate bars. And even like the other day, somebody wrote us an email and they said they never knew something like this existed and they were hooked.
I like it. You've said you want to grow Bar and Cocoa beyond your own ambition. What does that actually mean? And what's the version of this company that maybe scares you a little bit?
Sure, I think I have certain limitations and like know-how and skill set. And that's what I mean by wanting to build it beyond my capacity or beyond my ambition.
Yeah.
I think the one version that scares me is where we like scale revenue and dilute to the point of where we don't have a point of view, when we don't know what we're doing except just selling chocolate. It's like it's not about selling lots of chocolate or having lots of chocolate. It's having the best chocolate, period. So it has to have some version of curation even as it grows. The version that's exciting to me is one where we really truly do become Sephora in that way of chocolate, where we have multiple stores and we're deeper on education and also helping people discover brands, but also maybe even becoming like the incubation for a new chocolate maker to kind of grow. I imagine like kind of like an artist studio where we have like the best chocolate equipment that money can buy, and somebody could come in and do a residency to make chocolate. And that's something that requires much smarter people than myself, perhaps, and leaders and building systems so that the brand can stay sharp and go beyond me.
If a bootstrap founder is sitting, at $500,000 in revenue, selling a niche product online and thinks that the path forward is to make things easier, what would you tell them?
I would say not to optimize for ease, but to optimize for something where you can't be copied. Something unique, something that's hard that you're willing to do, that improves the product or the customer experience or how you sell it. And then just keep grinding or keep deepening into that space or that specific thing until you're the best at it or you're the expert at it.
Be different and be an expert. I like
Yeah.
it. All right. So quick lightning round. So quick questions, quick answers. I think I already know the answer to this one. One tool you can't run Bar and Cocoa without.
Coda.
Worst shipping disaster.
FedEx lost a pallet of chocolate, like 500 kilos of chocolate in Italy.
You got it.
Yeah.
Best selling bar right now and why?
Fjac brown cheese. It surprises everyone. It's got goat cheese and milk chocolate, and it is Moorish and delicious.
The first thing you'd fix in most Google Ads accounts.
Negative keywords.
One metric you check every single day.
Daily sales in Shopify.
Biggest surprise opening the physical store.
That we actually can sell chocolate in places like Greensboro. Like there's a market for it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And finish this sentence for me. Friction is a moat because...
Friction is a moat because very few people want friction in their lives. Very few people want to be uncomfortable.
I agree. Pashmina, where can folks find you online? What should they check out first? And any offers for Frank Growth listeners on Bar and Cocoa?
Yeah, sure. So you can find us online at barandcocoa.com, or if you're in Greensboro, come to our store in person. We're Bar and Cocoa on Instagram and all the socials. And if you're on our website, you get a free bonus bar with your first purchase. And I highly recommend our World Chocolate Box. 10 bars, can't go wrong.
Perfect. Pashmina, thank you for coming on. This was awesome.
Thank you.
That was Pashmina De Shon and a masterclass in why the hardest version of your business is usually the most durable one. Here are my top 3 takeaways from today from my interview with Pashmina. First, friction is a moat because nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Humans avoid pain at all costs. Pashmina runs her own warehouse, manages global imports from 60 plus makers, handles FDA compliance and engineered packaging down to the millimeter, keeping her melt rate negligible and her waste at 2% when competitors run at 10 to 12%. If someone wants to replicate Bar and Cocoa, they can copy a product page, but they can't copy a decade of supplier relationships, shipping know-how, and the muscle memory of doing it right under pressure. 2, a curated marketplace wins on trust, not volume. Bar and Cocoa isn't a distributor dumping cases on the market. It's Sephora for chocolate. The job is to filter the world, remove the bad options, and make discovery feel easy and safe. Complexity is an asset in a curated marketplace, but unmanaged complexity will kill you. Pashmina learned to let data drive growth, kill slow moving SKUs sooner, invest in forecasting earlier, and stay unemotional about what the customer is telling you that they don't want. And three, retail isn't DTC with shelves. It's a different machine. The store is a marketing and retention channel more than a sales channel. The economics shift from variable cost heavy, shipping and ads, to fixed cost heavy, rent, labor, build out, but the discipline stays the same. Contribution margins, inventory, turns, and a strong point of view. If you're thinking about physical retail, you need a reason to exist in that format, not just a desire to be there. One action you can take this week in 10 minutes or less: don't optimize for ease. Optimize for what can't be copied. Pick one part of your business that's hard, that you've been tempted to outsource or simplify away, and ask yourself, does this improve the product, the customer experience, or how I sell? If yes, go deeper. Build the muscle now while you're small, because when you're 10 times this size, you're going to want to own it anyway. That's Frank Growth. If this gave you something you can use this week, follow the show and share it with one operator who needs it. I'm Jason Shafton from Winston Francois. We help companies build sustainable, repeatable growth with a proven operating system. Show notes and takeaways are in the description. Be frank and keep growing.